Hello everyone and welcome back to Guy of the Boxeo. The following video is an analysis on the recent happenings of the rescheduled bout between Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship of the world, originally scheduled for February 17th, now rescheduled for May 18th. There has been a lot of vitriol towards Fury due to him getting cut in sparring by the Croatian boxer Agron Smokaci. And I'm going to explain why I understand why people are attacking Fury, but also why I don't agree with it. The first one is getting cut in sparring. That is a real thing. As somebody who boxed for 7 years, I can clearly tell you from experience, yes, you can get cut in sparring. You naturally put headgear on and Vaseline and a mouth guard in the facial area to help yourself being protected as much as possible, as well as putting Vaseline on the gloves. But even with all these precautions, things can happen. And that area above your eye is a very soft area. The tissue there is very sensitive, and all it takes is a hyperextension of that area, which can be caused by the brushing of a glove or even a body part, head, shoulder, arm, and you can get a cut. I would know I got a cut over my left eye and required some stitches during just sparring. And it is enough to stop a fight. It's enough to stop not just the sparring session, but to stop any pre-scheduled fight, especially if it's on the eve of. So this does happen in real life, and I hope that me explaining that can help people understand that this does happen. And do I believe that it really did happen? Yes, because I know I saw some contraries to this by people saying, "Oh, he cut himself purposely to do that," and I can't see that happening because of the money that is at stake for this fight. It's just too much, and you'd have to be a certain level of stupid to play around with your benefactor when this amount of money is on the line. Where I see a lot of the criticism towards Tyson Fury coming is two major things. One is his spotty commitment to fights in the past, as well as his clear agenda in dealing with Usyk. So let's start with the spotty commitment aspect. Fury has been very open about his history with mental health, depression, and suicide, which has led to the cancellation of fights, the big one being the rematch with Vladimir Klitschko after he had defeated him astoundingly in 2015. On top of that, he is shown to have just pulled out of fights almost on the spur of the moment. If you recall, in 2014, he backed out of a fight with Alexander Ustinov, a late replacement for the original opponent, Derek Chisora. And then recently, the fight with Usyk was scheduled for December 23rd, which he backed out of due to claiming that he's suffered an injury during his bout with Ngannou. So these things do add up in the eyes of the public, because at the end of the day, people just want to see you fight. They want to see two people fight and see who's the better person on the day. It's simple when it comes to the public view of boxing. And ultimately, just like in real life, when your walk does not match your talk, people will not take you seriously. And this is what is happening to Fury. There's been a history of him, and regardless of the reasons, if you do something like that long enough, people won't take you seriously and will get frustrated with you. For example, Oleksandr's manager, Alex Krasiuk's recent video on it basically personifies the common public opinion towards Tyson Fury. Not taking him seriously and now being frustrated with him. The other reason why Fury's getting a lot of flack is for his obvious agenda. For the last few years, he's been taking money fights as Usyk gets older. You can include those bouts between him and Dillian White, him and Chisora for the third time, and him and Ngannou as examples of this. And there's a reason as to why he is using this strategy. The last 20 years has been a period of prosperity for boxers coming from the ex-USSR region in the world. This includes countries such as Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan. These areas have produced fighters that are not just technically sound, but also situationally prepared to a level that you don't really see in other parts of the world. The calculated scientific approaches that you see with boxers from this part of the world, coupled with just the sheer experience of not just fighting highly at a national level, but an international level in the amateurs, has made some of these guys more than prepared when it's come to the paid ranks. Fighters such as Sergey Kovalev, Dmitry Bivol, Gennady Golovkin, Artur Beterbiev, Vasil Lomachenko, Janibek Alim Hanula, Oleksandr Usyk, and many, many more. All these guys fall under that umbrella, I'm saying, and just look at their results. They've all pretty much won world championships at the highest level and have always been dangerous opponents. And ultimately, many of them have become high-risk, low-reward opponents, which is the worst kind of opponent you can be in boxing, because nobody wants to fight you, and more often than not, the money is not worth the chance of losing to a legitimate opponent. And as said before, the schooling is just insane in the sense of experience. All these boxers that I just mentioned are so adept at fighting in another person's backyard due to the amateur experience. I've seen Sergey Kovalev fight in Atlantic City, New Jersey, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I've seen Golovkin fight in New York City. I've seen Artur Beterbiev fight in Quebec City. And if you watch these guys fight in their home countries and then away, they don't look like they miss a step because they are so acclimated to their surroundings and situations. Ultimately, these are very tough customers to deal with. And as for Usyk, it's the perfect example. He's fought Marco Huck in Germany, Mairis Bradis in Latvia, Murat Gassiev in Russia, Anthony Joshua in England and Saudi Arabia. So you could send a guy like that to Antarctica and he'll still fight the way he does in Kiev, Ukraine. The Fury camp undoubtedly acknowledges Usyk as a legitimate threat, a fight that can see them potentially lose. And as it's been shown historically, one way to fight a potentially dangerous fighter is to let them age. The most recent noteworthy example would be between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. They had that first bout. I do believe Golovkin won that bout. I'm a fan of Canelo's, but even I can admit that Canelo camp saw that, and you saw the difference in terms of time period between the second fight and then afterwards the third fight. They let that marinate, that trilogy, because they knew from that first fight that Golovkin was a legitimate deal. I actually stand corrected. A probably even more recent example would be between Devin Haney and Vasil Lomachenko, as Haney's camp tried to catch Lomachenko at an advanced stage and learned the hard way that Lomachenko still got the dog in him, as you would expect from one of the most technically sound boxers in the history of the sport. And now you're seeing it between Fury and Usyk. He's done the prize fighting route and said, I'm not going to fight Usyk yet because I can clearly see he's a real deal and there's a good chance of me losing this fight. So I'm going to take on a bunch of other fights that make me some money while he goes his route and gets older, not just with age, but also through being tested in fights. The smart fan sees this, and this is another reason why Fury is being raked over the coals, as opposed to now you're seeing Joshua, a guy that's lost twice convincingly to Usyk, being seen in a more positive light than Fury. All because he ultimately came up and showed up, which is what fans want. They just want to see guys fight and forget losing your O. If you put up a good fight, that's what will always be remembered. So ultimately, this fight has been rescheduled. You saw His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh basically say it's happening on May 18th, and if somebody pulls out, they have to pay $10 million as a penalty. I don't think he's joking. I just don't get the vibe that he's playing around. So I do think ultimately that cut was legitimate. These things do happen in boxing. Check out Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman. They were supposed to fight, I believe, in September and had to be postponed to October due to the cut that Foreman sustained in sparring. So kind of similar to this whole scenario. But legitimate or not, it's clearly a delay. It's left a lot of people frustrated. It's continued to add more criticism towards Fury, a person that has clearly shown inconsistency in attendance as well as having clear agendas when fighting. And this is ultimately leading to the answer that the only way Fury is going to shut anybody up in this environment is to fight Usyk, which is going to happen. Like I said, the money is just too crazy. Even if you lose, you got to take this fight. I mean, anybody listening to this podcast would clearly fight Usyk or Fury for that amount of money, even if we'd all get mutilated into hamburger patty. That's my take on the news of the Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury fight being rescheduled for May of this year. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And looking forward to releasing the next video shortly. Have a lovely week.